What I'm going to illustrate is just basically five, six stories about why I tend to not really trust most people, is a crazy thing to say, and people are probably going to start psychoanalyzing me. Oh, he has this issue and that issue and this and that, and it's because of this, and and make up all this shit. But what I want to do is share with you these stories, and then maybe you'll see a little bit about what I'm talking about, and a little bit about the general idea of self-deception that is typically acceptable as the norm of human experience. So a lot of people, for example, in a spiritual meditation, new agey kind of context, people want to come on like they're all love and light, or they're all positive, or they're all good vibes only, or they're all compassion, at which point I'm ready to get the fuck out of there because the level of self-deception is large most of the time. First is I was out to dinner with a person that I was meeting for probably the first or second time, and they were telling me about this, love fest that they were going to go to, and how there was going to be lots of loving activities and cuddling and shamanic ABC and lots of other related activities, which is totally cool if that's like what you're into and what is fun for you. And my response to this person was, yeah, it seems like a lot of times that people get really sucked into that have really lacking kind of boundary issues or self-worth issues. And at which point the person was really offended and really upset and said I was an asshole and said I was like really critical and mean and I was just projecting and it was just my story and all of these kinds of things. And I just said, all right, I mean, sure. Like, I'm not going to argue with you. And then immediately after they were done belittling me for saying that statement, their response was telling me a story about how they were at one of these festivals and they were sexually abused or assaulted, or someone had forced themselves on them. And then I'm like, wait, what? Like I'm sorry to hear that, obviously. Are you joking though? Do you remember the statement that I said earlier where I was like, yeah, people have really like boundary issues or self-worth issues that often get sucked into this. So they don't see the connection that perhaps the boundary issue, the self-worth issue is what opens the door to allowing someone to say, hey, come on in and just walk all over the boundaries and the self-worth that I don't have, i.e. the exact story that she had told me after telling me I was so wrong and so mean and everything was so stupid. So that's the first example. Second example was a similar situation, and I was having tea with this person, and they were talking about how their ex-boyfriend, ex-partner, or whatever, broke up because he wanted to get really into like polyamory and like kind of free love, communal sort of deal. And my response to that person was, yeah, it seems like a lot of times people that get sucked into that have like diagnosable and verifiable like psychological disorders, whether it's like narcissism or codependence or some extreme example of these things. And she's like, oh, no, never. This guy's great. He's amazing. How dare you say that? Like, you're just assuming all of this. You're just a fucking, how do you know? You're an asshole. Similar spiel. And then immediately after that, they're telling me a story about how this guy, after they broke up, was diagnosed bipolar and put on a bunch of meds. And I'm like, what? Do you remember what I said before? You told me I was so wrong, and then you just said exactly what I was talking about? And then the third example, actually I'm going to give you four because I just remembered another one. The third example is this lady was talking to me on Facebook, wanting advice, wanting my recommendations to help her with her like health issues. So as I'm listening to her talk, And I just responded, well, it seems like, you just have like a narrative of like really enjoying being a victim. Like, why do you enjoy being a victim? That might be something to consider rather than all of these things that you're convinced that you're already doing that are making you so healthy. And at which point they're like, oh, who are you? You're just assuming. You don't know me. You don't know my situation. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just reading into things where there's nothing to read into. And I'm just like, okay, sure. And then I just said, well, like, you don't want to hear what I have to say. You clearly have everything pretty much already figured out. So I'm not really gonna like waste my time or be disrespected like this anymore. At which point I received essays telling me how I wasn't just gonna be another man that was gonna, abuse her or tell her A, B, or C or make her feel afraid or abused in some way. And I'm like, wait a minute. At which point the person deleted me from Facebook and hadn't talked to him since. So I'm like, wait, remember when I said the whole victim thing that you like to do, but you told me I was wrong, but then you just said exactly what I was talking about when all I said was literally, yeah, you might want to look at these things, and then you hit me back with paragraphs telling me how I'm wrong and how you're right. So there's no real space for me to actually even offer any help, so I'm going to leave because I don't want to waste my time. And then your whole thing is about how I'm trying to bully you, I'm trying to make you feel all of these things, which I didn't even say. And I'm just going to be, the 1,000th man in your life that's going to do something to you. And I'm like, but then wait, the whole victim narrative has nothing to do with it? All right. And actually, I'm going to 5 stories. Here comes the 4th story. Similar situation, a woman hit me up on Facebook trying to, ask me what I think, what I recommend for a particular health situation. And basically, this was another instance of just essays and essays and paragraphs and her telling me what she thinks I'm going to say and her telling me what I think and what I believe and what I'm going to tell her. Preemptively telling me what I'm going to tell her and then telling me what I'm going to tell her and why that's wrong and why she's already tried it, she's already done it, and all of these things. And my simple response was, well, you're really just so self-absorbed that maybe that's part of your problem. And at which point it's like, you're a fucking asshole. You don't understand my situation. How dare you say this to me? You don't know my problem. You don't know what I've been through. And I'm like, oh, so you know what I've been through? You know what my life has been? You know what I've suffered through? You know what my current situation is enough to tell me that I don't know anything about your situation and I can't relate to it? You're right. I'm the presumptuous asshole in this situation. Makes sense. When in reality, it's essays and essays of paragraphs, no space, and then telling me what I think and what I'm going to say, not even giving me the time or space or opportunity to even interject, which is actually fine because I probably wouldn't have anyways because this person was so self-absorbed. So that was the 4th example. The 5th example is someone wrote me an email asking, what should they do for their particular situation? What should they take? Da, 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 da. And they're telling me all these things, telling me all these symptoms, telling me all these experiences. And my response is, yeah, you might want to look at your liver. It sounds like you got like maybe a lot of anger and frustration and resentment. It sounds like that could be throwing off your liver and like why you're having these symptoms. This is fairly textbook standard kind of deal. And then the person's response was this huge long paragraph about fuck you. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't have anything to do with fucking anger or resentment. Who are you? You're just some asshole that owns an herb company. You can't even give me advice on what to take, and you just have to put your bullshit on me and saying this whole thing. And it's this huge essay, which is extremely angry and resentful, when all I said is, you might want to consider that. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm just going off of what you put in your email. But then it's funny that the identical thing, which I said they might want to look at, is exactly what they wrote back with, in denial of the fact that it was actually true. So their attempt to deny what I was saying was actually affirming what I was saying, but they weren't aware of it at all. All right, so I actually just remembered a 6th story, which also illustrates what I'm talking about. And this is a person that I was friends with for a few years and then decided to not be friends with them anymore because they were really unreliable and extremely dishonest and a little bit manipulative and also just kind of crazy. So they hit me up out of the blue after not talking to them for years or whatever, and start in, oh, hey man, saw what you've been doing online. It's really awesome. Looks like it's really grown and you've done all these things and it's so cool and it's so amazing and I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. Like, it's really cool. Like, you're really good at this and you did that and blah, 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 blah. A lot of bullshit, which I completely ignored. And my response to that was like, hey man, thanks for saying that. It's really nice to hear. I have worked hard. These things have happened. Cool. But I'm not really interested in hanging out with you. As I made clear a few years ago when I said that I didn't want to hang out with you and I haven't talked to you in 3 years. And, I would just appreciate it if you actually just respect this boundary and respect my intentions and reasonings for doing this. And I didn't really say anything past that, but my reasons were exactly what I said earlier. The person's response was, oh, fuck you. You're a fucking scammer. You're just like, you copy people. You're so unoriginal. You're so bullshit. You don't even know what you're talking about. You just plagiarize a bunch of people. You just sell the lowest quality herbs to the dumbest people. And just started insulting everything. And I'm like, wait a minute. Do you see a few messages up in this thread where you're saying the exact opposite? So in that instance, the person, in an attempt to deny what I'm saying, is actually validating it and exhibiting exactly why I made the decision in the first place. And I'm just like, what? Like, what is life? Like, how is this happening? How is this real right now? But it happens and it's hilarious. Right, so the moral of the story is, I guess, is expanding upon the ideas of self-deception and honesty. Meaning that we can really only be as honest with other people as we are with ourselves. And if we're constantly lying to ourselves, really makes us a bit dangerous in the world. And what I'm saying is why I don't trust people or why I don't want to hang out with them. It's not a put down. It's not anything mean. It's more just practical because I don't really necessarily want to deal with it if I can see it coming from that far away. And sometimes I just want to hang out whenever, that's fine, but it just really comes down to not really wanting to deal with that. And in a situation where I can't really be myself because I can't be honest, because when I'm honest, I'm the asshole. I'm the arrogant, narrow-minded, critical fill in the blank. Then it becomes oppressive for me to not be me, so then it's kind of just practical in that situation because the whole basis of wanting to relate to other people is a situation where both people can just be themselves comfortably, right? I mean, it seems like that's the ideal. And it's not really putting anyone down either because we all do this to varying degrees. We all operate under illusions. We all operate under varying amounts of self-deception. That's part of life. And part of the process of waking up or part of the process of being authentic or individuated or being who we really are is starting to cut through some of that deception and stop doing it. And if we want to be healthier, we want to have more energy, we want to have a good life, maybe we just stop lying a little bit more and get more in touch with like what actually is, who we actually are. Maybe we are ultimately afraid, maybe we are scared, maybe we are wounded, maybe we are traumatized, maybe we are all of these things. So fucking what? Who cares? Like, who is it that decided that that's a horrible thing and we have to be something else? It's bullshit. It's something that allows people to be really profitable and manipulative. Meaning, we're just this walking wound that never heals. In the system, in the people in the system, in the societal agreements that we all make, kind of just precipitate and keep that bullshit going. For what? Just to keep it going because we have to keep it going to keep it going? There's no real reason, there's no real enjoyment, there's no real purpose for it. Not to say that there should be, but if it's not enjoyable and it's not creating enjoyment, it's not really helping anyone other than in a monetary, psychic, vampiristic sense, maybe we ought to step back and consider that maybe we don't really want to do it anymore. It's not really a judgment, it's more, it comes down to like practical, pragmatic idea of what do we want? What is our life should be? What do we want our life to be? How do we want to live? How do we want to be remembered? How do we want to be ourselves? And it comes back to starting where we are. Not where we think we should be or where we idealize we ought to be, but where we actually are, who we actually are. And that might be a fucking train wreck. You never know. Maybe we are a shyster. Maybe we're a fucking manipulative scumbag. Well, it helps to actually know that a bit more than just pretending that you're not. You know, it helps to actually understand that maybe you do have lots of negative emotions. Maybe you do feel A, B, or C. Well, how about just not trying to cover it up? How about not just lying to yourself and lying to other people all the time because it's more spiritual or it's more fill in the blank? And perhaps that is the more spiritual thing that we can do, is actually start where we are, actually get in touch with who we are, and actually start to stop lying to ourselves and lying to other people. And maybe that is really a solid foundation from which we might actually be able to grow. We might actually be able to experience more love. We might actually be able to experience the things that we're going around parroting and pretending and peacocking and miming and puppeting, the bullshit that we're supposed to be doing, that's actually keeping us from doing it in the first place, which is ultimately ironic and hilarious that that's how ultimately the system is set up and constructed. Just like in the same way that the slave owners that founded America said all men are created equal, just that, you know, wars in Iraq or wars in other places are for their liberation, but in actuality it's just replacing one oppressive regime with another. Just like the war on drugs actually just creates more drug users, just like America is the land of the free and the home of the brave, but has the highest prison population on the planet, but only a fraction of the planet's total population. What? I don't get it. It's just how the Patriot Act was about freedom and protecting liberties, but actually just took them away. Just like so many other examples that we could keep going on and on and on and on. But again, it's people coming on one way but actually being another way. Like, it's silly. And if we think these things in the world are problematic and we don't agree with them, then perhaps we might want to consider our own actions and our own behavior and our own psyche and our own world and our own worldview and our own reality to see if perhaps we're just continuing the same trend, or maybe we want to do a different trend. I don't know. I get it. I'm the fucking asshole in the situation for being honest or saying things directly, just like you saw in the examples that I gave you, which again, I could keep going with dozens of others. And again, it's not about me being smart or being right or wrong, because that's stupid. I don't really care. Those are just not really important. It's just really, I gave you the examples. You can make up your own mind. You make up your own decision. For me, what I said was true in those situations, under those conditions, within those contexts of which I said them. And with dozens of other examples and many, lots of life experience and sensing people and having intuition, just kind of arrived at not really taking people that seriously, or actually just taking them as seriously at the level of which they are taking themselves, and not really wanting to be their dildo, as it were. Anyways, hopefully this has been helpful. If you liked this video and you haven't seen my hour-long presentation on why I felt angry, sad, and lonely or something for most of my life, you should check that out. It's about an hour of me rambling about that. One of the most popular videos I've done in the last few years, and hopefully this one will be up there as well. So thank you for watching. Hopefully it's been helpful and relatable to you and somewhat inspirational to help you just to be a bit more honest with yourself and more honest with other people, because it might suck, it might be uncomfortable, but that's life. You know, we have the choice of legitimate suffering or the suffering to avoid suffering. So what do you want to do? I don't know. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.